Shawn Mendes is easily one of the biggest musical success stories out of Canada in the last decade or so. But a couple of years ago, Shawn walked away from all that success at the height of his career. Now he's back with a brand new album. The group chat's here. They have thoughts on that album. Let's go. I'm Alamin Abdul Mahmoud, and this is Commotion. Why don't we start right here?
I stepped off the stage with nothing left. All the lights were fucking with my head. But here I am singing songs again. Why? Ease my mind. I don't know why.
From his new album, simply titled Shawn, that is Pickering, Ontario's own Shawn Mendes with Why. Look, under any normal circumstances, a new Shawn Mendes album would be a huge deal. We're talking about one of Canada's most successful pop artists of the past 10 years. This is someone who's won 13 Juno Awards, and just to give you a perspective of who else has done that, Gordon Lightfoot has done that. Shania Twain has done that. Nickelback has done that. To date, Shawn Mendes has sold over 20 million albums. Shawn is his first record in 4 years or so, but it's also the first one since he did something that very few artists do at their peak. 2 years ago, Shawn Mendes canceled a massive world tour, saying he needs to prioritize his mental health over his career. And now he's back with his new album. He's going for a different vibe. We have a folksy, sort of country-influenced vibe, and a more, I would say, open, more vulnerable style of songwriting that's going on here. And you can't help but wonder a couple of things. One, is this a sort of record that can actually bring Shawn Mendes back to being one of the big pop stars of our time? And also, maybe the deeper question is here, does he want that? Is that something that Shawn Mendes himself actually interested in? It's an all Shawn Mendes conversation on today's Commotion. Rosie Long Decter is here, Suzy Exposito is here, and Natalie Harmsen for the first time. Hello, everybody. How's it going?
Hi.
What a delightful time. We're going to talk a lot about Shawn Mendes over this next little while. Why don't we start off by going back maybe to the very beginning of Shawn Mendes. Take a listen to this.
Hello from the other side. I belong with you. You belong with me. You're my sweetheart. Because you know I'm all about that bass, no treble.
You thought we were going to play some new Shawn Mendes. No, we went back to the Vine days. That is 15-year-old Shawn Mendes. A bunch of clips that he posted in 2013 to Vine. That's where he got his start, on an app where everybody sort of plays, for 6 seconds, nothing longer than 6 seconds or so. Nat, I'm going to start with you on this one. 6 seconds, not a lot of time to make an impression on a person. How was Shawn Mendes able to take that and then build it into viral fame, you think?
I think in that 6 seconds, he just really was able to show off his charisma, that beautiful voice. And I think the fact that he's a Leo also came through during those 6 seconds, right?
That's critical.
So I think, exactly. Anyone who's watching was like, wow, he's so cute. He sounds amazing. And you just really got that sprinkle of his charm.
Yeah, there's something incredibly watchable about him in this era of time. I think he just kind of sits, his hair is sort of slicked back, and he's got he's carrying a guitar and he's just singing his heart out. Rosie, I think we've now been kind of pretty accustomed to this sort of pipeline of creating artists, right? Over the past 10 years or so, Vine, and then, of course, TikTok. But it's kind of rare, I think, to see one turn into someone who's this big. That doesn't happen very often. How do you think Shawn was able to take the leap from this being he's like a flash in the pan kind of viral guy to established pop star, 20 million records sold? How does he make that journey, you think?
Yeah, I think it was a moment, back to the mid-2010s when One Direction were going on hiatus. Justin Bieber was sort of entering his bad boy moment, and I think there was sort of a appetite for someone who could be in that space and bring a kind of wholesome vibe to it. And I think Shawn Mendes really sort of fit that need. And I think maybe there was this is speculation, but maybe the industry was like, oh, Bieber was Canadian. Let's get another Canadian guy up in here. They've got they've got talent in Ontario. So I think that he came along at the right moment there, and then he brought the work ethic, he brought the charm, he brought the good looks, and he seems like someone you could have a nice hang with. He seems pleasant.
He does seem, I agree with you. But also, can I just say, Rosie, like, I'm just doing like mental math here, and I don't think that you were the right demographic, like the teen demographic, when he was popping off on Vine to sort of go like, yeah, this guy, he's the person I'm going to be following. What ultimately convinces you that like, yep, he's got the thing that it takes to become a pop star?
Okay, well, first of all, I can't believe you're aging me like that.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I just did some math.
Harsh.
Okay, continue.
No, I did. I missed him when he first came out, and I really got on board with Señorita. That was, I think, when he really broke through into kind of everyone's sort of mainstream consciousness.
That's a duet with Camila Cabello, yeah.
Yes, yeah. The sort of song of the summer vibes, very sultry. I think that was a great hit. And then I went to his back catalog and I was like, oh, he's really good at this kind of anthemic, inspiring sort of track. I think of him a little bit as like a Canadian Harry Styles. He's got a little bit of the kind of pop rock sensibility that Harry does. And yeah, I think I just found him really charming, and I was ready to see more of him.
Rosie, I'm just going to say, like, you did this to us. We now have to hear just like a little bit of Señorita. Let's hear it.
Sapphire and moonlight, we danced for hours in the same tequila sunrise. Her body fit right in my hands, la la la. You felt like ooh la la la, yeah. I love it when you call me Señorita.
Shawn Mendes, Camila Cabello, that is Señorita. Suzy, Shawn and Camila started dating when the song came out. They broke up a few years later. They're still friends. You and your close personal friend with Camila Cabello, I assume, because you are who you are. You guys have recently chatted about this. You recently chatted about life, you and Camila, because I don't live that kind of life, Suzy. That's you. But when you guys chatted, like, what kind of insight did she give you into her relationship with Shawn?
Yeah, everyone from Miami, we all know each other. But no, I recently interviewed her, and she's hilarious because I think so much of the appeal, of both her and Shawn's music is all about, it's the novella soap opera appeal. Like, if a pop star doesn't really have much of a story going on, it's hard to pinpoint what makes them unique, but I think the two play off of each other really well, even when they're not together. Mm-hmm. And when she has talked about him in interviews, she gets really squirrely. Like, she doesn't want to say anything too explicit. She doesn't want to set off the blogosphere bomb, so to speak. And even though, they're still friends, she still releases a song on her new album that's called Can Friends Kiss? A lot of her songs are transparently about him. And, maybe a couple weeks after I interviewed her, Shawn did a New York Times interview where he said that she was his emergency contact. Even if they're not together, he would still call her when he's in a bind. So they still have this enduring intimacy that has become a huge part of both of their trajectories as pop artists. And I think that's why so many people are still tuned in, is because they like a storyline. They love a romance. They love tension.
But Suzy, like, what I'm interested in here is like the fact that it's kind of the only story we have about Shawn. It's not that it's a good story and I like this story. It's that, like, in the period of time that we've had Shawn Mendes in public life as a public figure, as an artist, very few actual narratives have stuck to him. And I say this because, like, when I think about any pop star from Taylor Swift to Justin Bieber, there is a sense of narrative. And, like, there's a sense of, like, an arc of their career. And there is, like, a satisfying relationship that you get as a fan when you're sort of engaging with their career and where they are in that story compared to where they've been. And with Shawn, genuinely, aside from the Camila sort of story arc, I can't think of another public narrative. Does that surprise you that someone can sell this many records and not really have a public story that immediately sticks in the minds of people?
I agree with that. You know, I wasn't somebody who gravitated towards Shawn Mendes. It's not usually my type of thing. I was skeptical when he came on the scene, just as I was skeptical of a lot of artists that came up through YouTube and Vine and what have you. Like if they didn't really stand for anything in particular, I wasn't really going to tune in as much. Which is why his new album is so intriguing to me, because I actually think I like it.
Whoa. Okay, hold off. We're gonna get there in a moment, because I actually, before we get to the new album, Natalie, I want to get to what I think Shawn Mendes is trying to do, which is create a narrative by also being a little bit real about where he's been. Because even though success has kind of seemed to come easy for Shawn Mendes, he hasn't had the easiest time dealing with it. So first, I want to play you this clip. It's Shawn talking to our pal Tom Power on Q in 2018 about his struggles with anxiety.
I mean, I think the thing is about anxiety is that it comes in phases and it's different for everybody. And in a moment when I was having it, I wrote a song about it. And I'm great right now. But I mean, the only way progression is going to happen is by talking about it and by allowing everybody to talk about it, you know. It just becomes more of a normal thing. And hopefully in 10 years from now, nobody is really worried about it. And hopefully 10 years from now, we have better ways of dealing with it because people talk about it and they don't suppress it, you know?
Okay, so that's 2018. Fast forward to 2022, Shawn Mendes pulls this plug on this massive world tour for mental health reasons, cancels 70 shows, walks away from an estimated $100 million in terms of revenue. Natalie, this is the beginning, and I'm not saying this is a crafting of public narrative. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this is now the prism that we think about when we think about Shawn Mendes, is he's putting his mental health as a part of the public conversation about Shawn Mendes and about artistry in general. So just talk to me about the significance of that moment and the broader impact of Shawn being so open about his mental health struggles.
Yeah. I mean, this was a huge moment. I remember the day that this happened, I had friends who were going to go see him on this tour and they were freaking out. Tears were shed. Some hearts were broken, you know, the whole thing. But I feel like I had never really seen anything like this happen before with an artist on his level. I feel like I'd seen artists in the past who, you know, they cancel because they're sick or because it's a physical thing. Usually you don't usually hear them say, I'm burned out, I'm struggling, I'm depressed, I can't get on the stage and give you a show. So I think for him to be so transparent and so candid about everything, it really marked a shift. And I think set a really, really good precedent, because now we're seeing in 2024 so many other artists be so open about their struggles. Like you've seen Chappell Roan be like, I need to set boundaries with my fans for my mental health. You've seen, you know, last year Orville Peck canceled his tour and said, I'm burned out and struggling with my mental health. So I think it's really good that he was able to do that. And I often wonder if he hadn't been so outspoken about that and done such a big thing with this, if other artists today would still be as willing to do the same thing to protect their sanity.
If folks are just joining us, my name is Alamin Abdulmahmoud, and this is Commotion, and I'm talking with Rosie Long Decter and Suzy Exposito and Natalie Harmsen, and we're talking about Shawn Mendes and this new record. Okay, we're going to play a little bit more for you. Let's hear a bit of Heart of Gold. From the new record, Shawn Mendes with Heart of Gold. Rosie, we got to talk about the general themes of this album, because if Shawn goes away for a couple of years and says, I've been thinking so much about my mental health, and the opening of this album is saying, I had to find the reason why I'm singing again. What is he singing on this album, and how is it different, you think, from his previous work?
Yeah, you know, I mean, he has spoken about anxiety in the past. He's sung about it, but I think this time around, the tone is different in that he's not saying I'm powering through. He's not providing the answers. He's more reflective. He's more pensive. You know, the song we just heard was a tribute to a friend who passed away. Yeah. So he's getting really vulnerable. He's sharing things with us. At the same time, I think it's interesting that, you know, he stepped away from anxiety, which is from spending most of his life in the public eye. And so at a certain point, you can't share everything with your fans. You know, you have to sort of maintain a sense of privacy, maintain a sense of boundaries. And I think there's a bit of a core tension there in the album. There's places he's not going.
Yeah, the tension is, how much do I owe people? How much do I owe people of myself? And actually, the more that I seem to give them, the more it seems to hurt me. So what are we, what is the cost of me picking this as a career path? And that's an interesting arc. It's an interesting thing for us to sort of engage with. Suzy, I'm interested in the fact that this became the album that for you, you're like, you know what? Shawn Mendes, he's cooking. Like, there's something going on in this album that makes you more engaged in the Shawn Mendes story than the previous albums. What do you think it is about this record?
I think I like what he's cooking, and I'm very partial to like Americana, folk, roots music.
Yeah.
When I listened to it, when I listened to it, I looked at the credits, was really happy to see Nate Mercero on there. He's played on records, really good records by Leon Bridges, Rustin Kelly. And so I like that he had the bona fides. I got to see him perform in Rock in Rio recently in Brazil. And his performance style, he's very, I would say he's like athletic when it comes to performing live. He hits like every note. He's got a precision about him. And yet hearing him on the record, I'm like, okay, he's not as by the numbers as I thought he was. I really like the lyricism on this record. I like when people get a little messy with it. And I think that his new album is like an unraveling of sorts. He's trying to go, deeper within in his work. He's being more open about the questions of like his sexuality in front of his audience, his mental health, and he's trying to figure himself out. We're just seated for the process of it.
Okay, so you mentioned his sexuality. Let's go there. I want to play a song on this record that's been getting a lot of attention on this record. Let's play a bit of The Mountain.
You can say I'm too young, you can say I'm too old, you can say I like girls or boys, whatever fits your mold. You can say I'm a dreamer, you can say I'm too far gone, but I've never been better, so call it what you want.
That is Shawn Mendes with the song The Mountain. He's referencing the speculation there. He's sort of directly referencing the speculation about his sexuality that's kind of followed him throughout his whole career. You can hear him sing there. You can say I'm too young. You can say I'm too old. You can say I like girls or boys, whatever fits your mold. This comes after a show in Denver last month where he told a crowd, the real truth about my life and my sexuality is that, man, I'm just figuring it out like everyone, and I don't really know sometimes, and I know other times. Natalie, all of this comes after so many years, I would say, of tabloids kind of hounding him about this. What do you make of the way that he's handling this on the record, but also just kind of publicly?
I think he's done a really good job at almost walking that tightrope in a very candid way. Like, I think he's always been somebody that's very forthcoming about these things, which he was when he was talking about the song, during the show. And I think he's always just really tried to put his heart forward. Like, Shawn is somebody I think that wears his heart on his sleeve. You get that in the lyrics. You get that in a lot of these interviews that he's done. So I think it really translates in that way. He's gone about it in the most authentic way I think that you can when you're somebody who's been in the spotlight for most of your life.
Yeah, and like Rosie, like there isn't a hint of resentment that he has to handle this publicly. And he would be entitled to that, I think, had he sort of presented that posture. But he's just kind of engaging with it in a way that is like kind of like, well, this is how I choose to sort of handle my life and keep this line private. What do you make of the way that he's handling it?
Yeah, I think it's been pretty graceful. I think, that is that kind of one other narrative that has been sort of stuck to him, but it's not a narrative he chose to put forward. It's something people have been speculating on for a long time. And I really appreciate the way he's kind of, again, there's that tension. He's going there, but he's not going there publicly. And I think, I believe that he's on a journey, and sexuality is a process, and who amongst us knows where we're at with it. So I say take your time, Shawn.
Okay, so now what I want to get into is the choice of genre and the choice of instrumentation and the sonic choices that are being made here, Suzy. Because when you choose to make a folksy Americana country album, you are maybe intentionally disengaging with the pop machine. The pop machine that has shaped you, that has shaped your career for the past little while. It's shaped expectations of you, I think, for the past little while. I think there's a way where you're trying to say, I want to do this. This feels more interior. This feels more reflective of where I am right now. And I think some people can read it as a gimmick, and some people do. And some people can read it as like, this is an expression, a genuine expression of like, this is how you ask these questions of yourself. How are you reading this? Do you read it as like an intentional sort of disengagement with the big capital P pop machine?
I think it's actually a necessary step in like a long-term career of a pop star, right? Like I feel like Taylor Swift has done this really well. I think about the Folklore Evermore duo as like that moment in her career. I think about Lady Gaga doing Joanne. Like,
let's go.
Yes. When, you know, I think when the machine has really started to grind on you, what better move to make than like an introspective folk record, which is not to say that it's totally formulaic. I'm not complaining. I love when they make these records.
I don't think it's disingenuous. I don't read them as disingenuous when people do that. I think like there is maybe a tendency to sometimes read it that way, but I don't immediately start off from that position, Rosie. I don't go, oh, you are now one of the Rosie's belting boys, and so now this feels like an entirely different kind of posture. Hey, what do you make of the tendency for people to go like, oh no, you've got a guitar and you've gone to the woods? This subtly means like you're trying to sort of put on a gimmick, because I think like some people have a distrusting relationship with that.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of a reference to Justin Timberlake's Woods era as well. Yeah, which was read really, really cynically, I think.
Yes, it was.
And I think it's interesting who can sort of pull it off and who can't.
Yeah.
And I think part of why it's working with Shawn, at least for some of us, is that it does come after this very public sort of burnout moment.
Yeah.
And it's totally understandable to want to kind of like strip back to your roots in that moment. That said, it's also a genre that's really popular right now. So you can take what you will from that.
Yeah, it's not like there's no one listening to this particular sound in this particular genre. Like that is certainly not to say that whatsoever. Okay, I just want to play one more song before we go real quick.
Heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do you?
This is the one that closes Shawn Mendes covering Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah. This is a song that at this point has been performed by literally hundreds of artists. Natalie, did you think we needed one more cover of Hallelujah? Were you like, you know what? Let's add one more to the canon, shall we?
I mean, what is one more, really, at the end of the day? But I was a bit surprised to see that on there. And then I kind of thought about it for a minute and then kind of had to hit pause and was like, no, this actually makes a lot of sense that he's done this, because I think it was either around the pandemic or maybe a little bit before then. He has opened up about being a lot more spiritual and about, you know, believing in God after growing up as an atheist. And I was like, okay, maybe this is sort of a hint of what's to come now. Like, you've gone through your whole Man of the Woods era. You've now found God, and now you're embracing this more spiritual side of yourself. So in that sense, I'm like, as an album closer, is this now a hint of the next era of Shawn Mendes? Like, are we going to get maybe a gospel album next time around? Who knows? But that's really what I took from that. I think it's a nice full circle moment. Also because I think he had covered the song way, way, way back when he was first starting out too. So a nice moment to be like, we've grown, we're here, and then on to the next thing.
What I like about this is that we're now fully speculating into the next era of Shawn Mendes, and this one started 6 days ago. I love this for us. I love this conversation. I appreciate all of you being here. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Of course, anytime. Rosie Long Decter is a writer for Billboard Canada and Maisonneuve in Montreal. Natalie Harmsen is an associate producer with CBC Music in Toronto. And Suzy Exposito is a freelance music journalist in Los Angeles. My name is Alamin Abdul Mahmoud. This show is called Commotion. We will be back tomorrow to talk about Gladiator and Wicked. We'll see you then.